Okay, it is now 5 o'clock. We will call the meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. It's all right, Andy, you good. Please let the record show, we have 6 trustees in attendance, and this meeting has been duly called, and notice this meeting has been duly posted for time and manner required by law. At this time, we will go into executive section, according to section 551.001 at the Texas Government Code. It is now 5 p.m. 6:04, we will reconvene back into open session. At this time, I will ask Ms. Melissa Stardater to lead us in our invocation, followed by our pledge of allegiance by Jackson Moore and Jameson Troll of Marvin Biomedical Academy.
Okay, thank you. Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of serving as trustees for WISD. Please be with our teachers, administrators, and staff each day. We are truly thankful for their dedication to jobs that are not always easy, but oh so important. We are thankful as well for the students and families here tonight, some who represent the legacy of educators who came before us. We're very thankful for all of you. Thank you for your protection and provision for all of us. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Our vision is to be a district where innovation thrives and growth is limitless.
We value choices because they make us unique and are critical to learning.
We value a collaborative culture that honors and supports all who positively impact the lives of our students.
We value an environment of belonging that respects individual differences and ensures equality for all.
We value relationships that broaden learning experiences and enrich our community.
Okay, next item on our agenda will be our recognitions. I believe we have a few people here tonight. Ms. Bridges?
We do, yes, sir. Good evening, Dr. Hollingsworth and board. First this evening, I am very excited to recognize an extremely worthy individual, Tommy Worthy. For many years, Tommy Worthy has led an effort to ensure every third grade student in Waxahachie ISD receives a dictionary that they may take home and to keep and reference throughout their schooling. Since August 2017, Mrs. Worthy's efforts have been supported by the Waxahachie Lions Club. Like many other things in our district, this effort has grown significantly along with WISD's student population. This year, we have 828 third grade students in our district, and just 2 years ago that number was almost 100 students less. Despite that growth, Mrs. Worthy and the Lions Club have continued to ensure each student receives a dictionary. We are extremely grateful to them for the work that they do. would next like to invite Andy Reeves, our interim support services director, to come up.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. First off, let me say thank you for your support for our department, maintenance and operations. It really means a lot to be able to come up here and shine some light on some of these people. They're great folks, and I appreciate you letting us do it. So from the maintenance and operations side, I'd like to talk about one man. I'm sorry.
You're fine, I'll do it.
He's our lead painter for the district, for our maintenance department. It's Arnold Martinez. Come on up here, Arnold. So this man is one of the most extremely hardworking people I've ever met in my entire life. He is kind to everybody. He's one of the most reliable and dependable people that I've ever met. He's always willing to lend a hand to anybody who needs it. He's truly the model employee for our maintenance department. I wish I had 1,000 like him. But more importantly, he's a good person, and that's what this district needs, is good people. So, yes, let's hear it for Arnold. So for our custodial portion, I want to introduce our custodial coordinator and our nighttime supervisor, Ruthie Valles and DeJuan Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to represent the custodian department. The custodians are an important piece of this district. They are the ones to arrive early each morning and the last ones to leave each night. They are the ones that knows what's going on in the building with our staff and with our children. They love their jobs and they do it with pride, and they are here to serve with kindness. This past summer, it was a tough one because of the new flooring replacement at Finley Junior High. And these custodians, without hesitating and without any extra help, they took control of the situation by pulling all furniture out from all the classrooms for the floor company to just come in and do their thing without getting behind to start this school year.
I just want to say thanks, because you guys do a great job. And thank you for your dedication. Thank you for the cleanliness of the building. And just thank you for everything that y'all have done. And keep up the good work.
At this time, I would like to call Azucena Chavez. Marta Cortez. Gaby Chavez. Rosana Gonzalez. Isabel Chavez. Last but not least, Maria Garcia.
Okay, so just a highlight for our department, which is WSC Sports Services. There we go. As a maintenance department, we do about 10,000 work orders a year. That's, give or take. Our HVAC department handles about 2,000 units approximately district-wide. So that means countless filter changes. I always roll my eyes when my wife asks me to change our filter. Imagine 2,000 of them. So over, I think there's 520 individual electrical panels, about 36,000 and change light bulbs throughout the district, 1,200 or so toilets, 1,100 sinks, countless, and I mean countless ceiling tiles, which I tried to start counting that, and that was a bad idea. So on average, we have about 100 events in the district per month. So our job in that is tables, chairs, tarps, all that stuff. We have 40 guys that are just unbelievable. They do anything they're asked. They're great people. Our custodial. There we go. Our custodial department, we have 16 campuses that we clean, like actual schools. We have, like admin, tech, stuff like that too that we clean. We have 97 total custodians, that's including supervisors and coordinators. We have day and night custodians, which means the day custodians are there for, emergencies. They're there to clean, but they're also spills, whatnot. The nighttime custodians is really where the majority of the sanitizing, cleaning, all that takes place. They're about 20 to 24,000 square feet per custodian that they clean. So that kind of averages out to about 8 classrooms per custodian and a hallway. They're truly the backbone of every campus. They're amazing people. In our grounds department, we have 22 sites that we maintain, approximately 300 acres to mow. They also help. There we go. They also help with all the moves and events. When we have testing and stuff, we have all kinds of chairs, tables. So they help out with that. They work through blistering heat. 110 degree heat. 10 degree cold. Truly some of the hardest working people in this district. And that goes for all of them. They're truly hard-working individuals that care. And I'm just glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board and Dr. Hollingsworth.
The next item on our agenda would be our open forum. This is a portion of the board meeting where the board receives input from our patrons. Each person who addresses the board will have 5 minutes to speak on his or her issue. Because of posting requirements of the Open Meetings Act, board members will not ask questions of the patron nor answer any questions posed by the patron. No action can be taken on any issue presented during the patron comment section of the board meeting. Patrons addressing the board will be notified when they are approaching the last 60 seconds of their allotted time to speak. When I call your name, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Leslie Jefferson. Ms. Jefferson, please state your name and address for the record, please. And Mr. Rogers here is our timekeeper. He will let you know when you have approximately 1 minute remaining.
Hello, my name is Leslie Jefferson, and I live at 108 Arborside Drive. I am here to bring to the forefront the blatant disregard of our children being bullied, violation of the bullying policy, and how the appeals process is used to manipulate and uphold unjust decisions. Waxahachie ISD has a freedom from bullying policy that states it is a violation for any student to engage in bullying or cyberbullying or for any employee of Waxahachie ISD to condone or fail to report acts of bullying or cyberbullying that they witness or become aware of. This administration takes no action against bullies, but instead hide behind the words mutual combat. My daughter has been sent to DAP twice. The first time was at Howard Junior High School, where she was verbally and physically assaulted on 3 different occasions by a student and told a teacher each time or administrator for each incident. Nothing was done. The 4th time she was pushed, she fought back. We were told she should have walked away. The 2nd time was more recently at high school and included the student going online calling her a fat B-I-T-C-H. The student approached my daughter on 2 different days telling her to move to another lunch table and that she couldn't sit there. After the 2nd time my daughter refused, the student walked away and came back and poured water all over the table and my daughter. My daughter reacted by pouring water back on the student, at which time the student punched my daughter in the face and grabbed her hair with both hands and pulled her down. She was sent to DAEP because the assistant principal refused to listen to what was done to her. The code of conduct states that students are to respect the rights and privileges of students and should not engage in bullying, cyberbullying, or harassment. Bullying is defined as a single significant act or a pattern of acts by one or more students directed to another student that exploits an imbalance of power and involves engaging in written or verbal expression through electronic means, or physical conduct that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive enough that the action or threat creates an intimidating, threatening, or abusive educational environment for a student, or infringes on the rights of the victim at the school. Assault is defined in part as intentionally or knowingly causing physical contact with another that can reasonably be regarded as offensive or provocative. These students did all these things to my daughter, who had no disciplinary record up to these points. For defending and protecting herself, she was punished with DAEP for 30 days. We are told that she escalated the issue and provoked the fight. Just because a person doesn't back down from a bully does not mean that they are not being bullied. I did file a level 1 and level 2 appeals requesting punishment be overturned or placement in ISS. The requests were denied, claiming that an investigation was done and no bullying was found, citing mutual combat. No one in this room can tell me that had my black daughter done these things to either one of these white students, she would not have been labeled a bully and the bullying policy enforced to the fullest extent. I have not filed a level 3 complaint because Friday, November 10th, was my daughter's last day in DAEP. The whole ordeal of DAEP began on September 22nd. I filed appeals immediately. The district administration took all 10 days up to the final hours of the last day to give an answer of denial for each appeal. She was out prior to the opportunity to a 3rd hearing. It's a systematic way of saying screw you. As a parent, taxpayer, voter, I am informing you that Waxahachie ISD is in violation of the bullying policy. I'm asking you to remove this DAP sanction from my daughter's record so that she can be free to be an active student. I'm asking you to look into the poor practices of the district, especially at the high school. I'm also asking that WISD administrators attend mandatory training on what bullying is and what non-discretionary actions must be taken according to policy. I also challenge you to look at the discipline data. Based on my communications in various online Waxahachie groups with other parents about bullying, the mutual combat numbers
1 minute, Ms.
are
Jefferson.
false. Our children are not being protected and their rights are being violated. We should not have to send our children to charter schools or other school districts or rally behind vouchers for private schools for them to get a good, safe education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Next speaker is Andrew White. Step forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Rogers will let you know when you have approximately 1 minute remaining.
All right, thank you. Andrew White, 1109 Panorama Loop. Mom, I apologize that you have to send your child to a school where she is not protected. I'm experiencing the same thing right now with my daughter, but I'll talk more about that next month. I'm sure my hearing will be denied as well, so we'll do it publicly in December. Ms. Starnader, during the October board meeting, you read survey results. That was actually a survey for the Amplify presenter. It wasn't to get teachers' input on Amplify curriculum itself, like they were told they would get that survey. They never got that survey. Speaking of surveys, I gave the T&I director, Dr. Binnicker, the survey 3 weeks ago that I created. Those questions came out of conversations with many staff members across the district. I know some of you in here mocked that only 13 teachers participated, but those teachers volunteered to do those surveys privately. I'm disappointed that the district didn't take me up on the survey to get feedback from teachers K through 12. That information could have been vital in providing the support that they need to internalize these lessons, but I will be creating more surveys in the future. That's my goal, is to support this district and help out as much as I can. If y'all continue to not use my stuff, that's fine. In a room like this size, it's easy to see all the district level decision makers. I would like to know who oversees the placement in alternative school. Is the goal to keep students there as long as possible? We've already heard from one mother. My daughter's been there going on 14 days now after an administrator at Howard fabricated evidence and refused to let my daughter see her evidence, but we'll talk more about that in December. When parents appeal, the district officials drag their feet. Some of them say it's the legal counsel of the district. Mr. Almenshire, I don't know if that's your decision. I know it's not finance. I don't know if it's Dr. Avertt's decision or Ms. Mott's decision. It isn't curriculum's decision. Or is it Dr. Hollingsworth? I'm not sure who in this room, but it's somebody in this room that allows these appeals to be drug out for 25 to 30 days. I thought the goal was to keep kids in the classroom and get them there as quick as possible. First-time offenders get thrown 30 days. There's not even a 15-day for first offenders. Just throw them over there for 30 days. To date, since August, 120 placements at alternative school based on the data that you are going to see tonight. 36 have been for fighting, 0 for bullying. We don't take bullying seriously. Fighting and bullying are both level 4 offenses in the Code of Conduct. They can result in discretionary placement. Discretionary is up to the assistant principal or the principal. So why are there 0 placements for bullying if we say bullying is taken seriously in this district? I wonder, out of the 36 that are there for fighting, we know there have been more. We know there have been a whole lot more, but we know that referrals sometimes are deleted or they're not reported. Teachers are told don't write referrals to lower the data. It's a shame that the adults who run our buildings are not protecting our children, but I don't think it's the principal's fault. I think it's somebody in this room that's not allowing principals to make decisions to protect our children. 0 have gone to alternative school for bullying, and they can't be sent there for bullying. It's pathetic. You are quick to punish the kids, but I'm wondering if we're holding ourselves accountable in this room. Y'all been sitting on star scores since July. I'm not talking about the A through F rating. We all know that's a freaking joke and a disaster from the state of Texas. But Dr. Hollingsworth, you've been sitting on the star scores since July, August, and you have not released them to the public. Taxpayers need to see what those scores look like. Thank you. Y'all can't keep blaming teachers for low scores. I find it interesting that our 2 assistant superintendents have been silent on the implementation of Amplify at their campuses, to my knowledge, at least in public forums like this. I'm wondering if they support Amplify. They've never said a word about Amplify publicly, to my knowledge. It's all in the back of Dr. Binnicker and his team. Over the last 2 weeks, elementary campuses have received Amplify resources and are currently trying to figure out how to use them. Ms. Mott, what support are you giving to elementary principals and teachers? I know Dr. Binnicker's team's busting their butt. Every single day they're supporting multiple campuses. What have you done to support the teachers and the principals? We've heard a lot about Tier 1 instruction materials, but no one in this room ever talks about Tier 1 instruction. I believe Dr. Binnicker's team is doing the best they can with what they have and the people they have. Who is coaching Dr. Binnicker? Who is helping him initiate this across all these campuses?
Mr. Wyatt, your 5 minutes is up, sir.
It's time for people in this room to be held accountable.
Our next speaker is Barry Jacobs. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Rogers will let you know when you have approximately 1 minute remaining.
Trustees, thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Barry Jacobs. I live at 16 Kaufman Street here in Waxahachie. I have kids at Global and Coleman. I'm here to talk about the Keurig Dr. Pepper contract, but first I'd like to pay a compliment to Ms. Jenny Bridges, who has handled my information requests on this patiently, graciously, and professionally. WISD is lucky to have her. So this contract is between the district and Keurig Dr. Pepper, or KDP, and purportedly requires all district facilities, including student and booster clubs, to buy all soft drinks and water exclusively from KDP. Child nutrition, that is, school cafeterias, are exempted from the exclusivity clause and can buy wherever they like. The contract is not a model of clarity, but so far as I can glean, it has 3 prongs. The first covers full-service vending. These are soda machines, mostly in teachers' lounges, and from what I can tell, KDP stocks the machines, collects the money, and sends WISD a commission check. So far as I can tell, WISD is not generating POs for this, and no money is going out for it. KDP just handles everything and sends a monthly check, which is great. It's essentially free money for the district. The second part covers cafeteria orders, which are priced under the Region 10 price list that I included in the packet that I provided for you. As you can see, I gathered prices for the same or similar products from some local retailers, stores that are either here in town or that offer delivery at a negligible price for the items our schools most commonly buy. In most cases, buying at retail is a little cheaper. In some, it's a lot cheaper. I've reviewed the 9 checks the district has written for products under this price list since August 1st of this year. If we had bought at retail, we'd have saved about $1,700 out of a total of about $10,650, or nearly 14%. Last year, the district paid POs under this contract in the amount of just under $39,000. I didn't review all of those POs, but if the percentages hold, then we overspent by around $5,300, which is partially offset because the contract provides 500 cases of drinks a year, about $5,000 worth to the district free of charge. So maybe this part of the contract is a wash. And in any event, since child nutrition isn't bound by the exclusivity clause, the district is free to shop around. If this were all there was to this, I would not be here. But the third part of the contract is where my concerns lie. These are the sales covered under the miscellaneous school price list in your packet. This is the pricing that student groups and booster clubs get. And as you can see, its prices are much higher. Every single item is more expensive than retail. The standard half-liter bottle of water is 372% more. In addition, KDP's minimum order is 10 cases, more soda than a small club at a school like Global can possibly use. I think this third part of the contract is a real problem. First, I have doubts about whether WISD can legally bind its student and booster clubs to this deal. And even if it can, I have no doubt that it should not. WISD is a fiduciary for these clubs. It's holding their money the students raise through their own efforts, and it ought to be looking out for their interests, not forcing them to buy at inflated prices. We shouldn't be gouging our student clubs to get a good deal on soda for the teacher's lounge. Since August, there have been only 3 checks written under this pricing. Just 3 checks, not because our student organizations wouldn't like to buy drinks for their after-school events, but because this pricing is so egregious. If you look back through district emails, you'll find example after example of student groups, from the National Junior Honor Society at Findlay to the Student Council at Global, asking the administration for a way around this contract, only to be rebuffed. And to give you an idea of the size of this problem, those 3 checks written this year totaled nearly $1,600, while similar product would have cost our student groups just $710 at retail, for a savings of about 54%. I know for this board, which oversees the spending of hundreds of millions of dollars, this sounds like chicken feed.
1 minute, sir.
It's very visible to our kids and boosters, and our kids, at least, know that they aren't being treated fairly. So my request to the district is to go back to Dr. Pepper and ask them to exempt student and booster groups from the exclusivity part of this contract. I'm not sure it's legally enforceable anyway, and it represents such small dollars that I doubt KDP will care. That will let our kids' clubs do things like buy soft drinks for the 9th grade dance with the money they've raised. And going forward, I hope whoever negotiates these contracts will both take a moment to compare the prices to what's available in the retail market and to make sure that they don't restrict student and booster clubs. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Jacobs. You state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Eric Jacobs, and I live at 610 Coffin Street. I'm a sophomore and student council member at Gloucester. Outside of academics, I spend a healthy amount of my time engaging in clubs and activities within my school. And truthfully, ladies and gentlemen, it takes a lot more work, money, and planning than is often acknowledged. But tonight, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Tonight, I'm here to discuss how this Dr. Pepper contract has hindered and antagonized student organizations. We work hard to raise money for our clubs. We want to be able to have a party every now and then. And quite frankly, we want to be able to have a say in how we spend our money that we raise. Unfortunately, because of the exorbitant prices found in this contract we are forced to adhere to, we cannot reasonably provide beverages without going flat broke. Respectfully, I cannot see how this makes any sense, especially when we're being overcharged at every turn. This isn't fair for me, for my classmates, for our clubs, or for any student in this district. Ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to take action to fix this so student organizations across the district can actually afford drinks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, I do want to say thank you, and also Mr. Jacobs, I want to just tell you that we do have an item on the agenda that's going to give more information related to that contract, and we'll do whatever we can to help. So thank you for that.
Okay, we're going to go a little out of order. If you're following along through our agenda, we're going to move to action item F and action item G, and then we'll go back to our reports. But our first action item would be consideration with possible action to select a name for elementary school number 10. Ms. Bridges?
Good evening again, Board and Dr. Hollingsworth. I'd like to invite two members of our naming committee, LaToya Bryant-Contreras and Corey Douglas, up to do the first action item. Come on up, guys.
Oh, I'm left-handed. It's weird.
My daughter's left-handed too. She's the only one, so it's weird too. Yeah.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Hollingsworth. The Waxahachie ISD Naming Committee is a diverse group of community members, retirees, former and current trustees, and staff members. The committee has met 3 times thus far to discuss naming 3 new facilities: elementary number 10, elementary number 11, and comprehensive high school number 2. The group has reviewed biographical information, anecdotal information provided by community members, and more as we work to narrow down a list of very deserving namesakes for our new buildings. We are pleased this evening to bring you recommendations for names for elementary number 10 and elementary number 11. For elementary number 10, we recommend honoring someone with a long history of serving both Waxahachie ISD and the community as a whole. And before he talks about that recommendation, there is a shirt that I'm wearing, and it is bold. It's called bold, that we have something in KW, and that means business objective, life by design. So when Mr. Douglas here talks, I truly think this individual definitely embodies the life by design.
This individual that we recommend is Mr. Jimmy Ray. He served Waxahachie Independent School District for over 38 years as a teacher, as a coach, assistant principal, homebound liaison, principal, and attendance officer. After retiring from Waxahachie Independent School District, he was elected as an Ellis County Constable in 2004, where he served more than 11 years. I wasn't prepared for that smile. In total, Jimmy Ray gave 50 years of service to the community. We believe he's very deserving of the honor of elementary number 10 being named for him. If you don't mind, I just wanted to kind of share just a couple of things what he truly meant to me. I went to Northside Elementary, and I was blessed to have Mrs. Timberman as my 5th grade teacher, and Mr. Jimmy Ray, he was my principal. Mr. Ray was the first person, other than my grandfather, to actually just instill just discipline and what leadership meant to me at the age of 10. My mom, she had me at the age of 15, very young. I'm an only child. And it wasn't until I really got to 5th grade and partnered with him to where he actually taught me how to make sure that I didn't get in trouble in school. And as he drove on our East Side community, he just had that such presence to where you just wanted to do the right thing when you saw him. He taught me, along with that, he had some kind of paddle. I remember that paddle he had. It was more than a paddle, but it was the conversations that he had with me. Is like, Corey, man, your mom, your mom works hard. She wouldn't approve of how you're acting. So I just thank him for those conversations, and obviously with you, Mrs. Timmerman. When I speak about my mom passed away in 2008 at the age of 46. She died in her sleep. But one thing that I'm so proud of is my mom was the first person in our immediate family to graduate from college. Mr. Ray was a part of a funeral service, from my memory, and my mom, he instilled in my mom that she wanted to be a mortician. So she went, at the age of young, I remember her dropping me off with my cousins while she attended school to go to college. And Mr. Ray instilled in her to not quit. Hey, yeah, you had your son at an early age, but Linda, you can do it. So she graduated from the Dallas Institute of Mortuary Science, and Mr. Ray was just so influential and just instilling in her just to not quit and to not give up. So if I don't have any other memories, I have that memory of her just being proud of just graduating from college. And I thank Mr. Ray for not only instilling in me, but also in my mom as well. So again, we believe he's very deserving of the honor of elementary number 10 being named for Mr. Jimmy Ray. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the naming of elementary school number 10, Jimmy Ray Elementary.
I have the honor of doing that, but I'm going to wait for a minute. Thank you, Corey. It just seems like the other day that you were in my 5th grade class. And the other day that I walked in the north side, and the principal was Jimmy Ray. He was my first principal. I think that was in 1982 at Northside. He was just like that picture, wasn't he? Yeah. All of you from Northside that taught with me, stand up, please, so I can recognize you. Yeah. We all lived Jimmy Ray. And just like you and all the kids that came through there, he was a great principal. He was a great man. When I left and went to the junior high and came back, I was his assistant principal and part-time 5th grade teacher. And he was my mentor for a year. And I had the privilege of taking his place as principal when he left Northside. So I've got a lot of history with Jimmy Ray. So I am so proud and privileged to make the motion to make our number 10 elementary Jimmy Ray Elementary School.
I have a motion by Mrs. Timmerman. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion?
I will say he didn't have a paddle. It's not just in the back of my mind. You didn't have to just go to north side of the city. You could go from Marvin to a field trip to north side and still ain't. Somebody told you.
You just reminded me of this theme.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. I know we have some family members here. I'd actually just come step forward so you can take some pictures and be recognized with the board,
Mr.
please.
Ray's family and friends and those he worked with to come up and we'll take a picture. Kendra, do you want to say anything?
Wow, what an incredible honor. I have no words. Just thank you to LaToya for making the phone call that invited us all here today. I had no idea why. Just thank you all for the consideration and to invite us here for this amazing, amazing honor. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Would y'all like to come up here? We'll take a picture real quick. All right, and board, next I would like to ask Dr. Joe Langley and Mr. Max Simpson to come up and talk about the proposed name for Elementary 11.
So item G is consideration and possible action to select a name for elementary school number 11. That's okay, no problem.
Presidential Board, Dr. Hollingsworth, thanks for this opportunity. I want to take just a moment for a personal aside. I've sat there for years and hundreds of people here. Some had concerns, some had things they want to change, some had criticisms. I remember very few that have said thank you. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do, the time and effort that you put in being a board member. And I want to say I think y'all are doing a fine job, very fine job. It's been my honor to be a part of this naming committee and specifically for number 11 as they've asked me to help make the presentation. And so it's with an honor I recommend that that elementary school 11 be named after Miss Frankie Lugette. Now Max Simpson's here. He knows her. He had worked with her. He's the trustee of the foundation in her name in which she has really contributed, continues to contribute to Waxahachie ISD. So Max is going to wherever, right here. Second aside, don't ever let Max Simpson stand behind you. It's not good. So I want to have Max come. He wants to tell you about the woman that Miss Jett was and why she so much deserves this merit tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Langley. I thank you for asking me to serve on the naming committee. It got me out of my rocking chair. It brushed some of the cobwebs out of my head. And I just feel privileged to do that. This is a good night to be a board member, a good night to be an administrator, because it signals the success of the passage of a bond issue. And I want to talk about that a little bit. It takes great skill to design a package to meet the needs of a growing school district. And once that's done, it takes even greater skill and effort to sell that package to the taxpayers. Y'all did that successfully. And tonight, this is just icing on the cake. Because as that building, as those structures come out of the ground, you get to put a name and a persona with that brick and mortar. Because that's all it is right now is brick and mortar. You know, so that is really, you should be proud of that. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be living in this town. And I've been blessed with a long life, and I've participated in a number of these kind of events. And I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but I'm going to talk about the first three that I was a part of. In 1970, late 1970, we named the old high school for Tyree Wildman, superintendent in this district for 35 plus years. Dr. Hollingsworth, you got a long way to go. 35 plus years, you can imagine. We did that in 70. The second person that we had this event for, we named for, at the new high school then, that was J.W. Williams, longtime icon basketball coach, Coach Judd's dad, I mean, the whole thing. Later served as in administration and also a board member because he had come full circle. And the third person that I remember was in 73, we named the new football stadium for Stuart Lumpkins. Stuart Lumpkins was one of the brightest men, lawyers I've ever known. He served as board president, Dusty, during the tumultuous times of the late 60s and the early 70s. And he did it with expertise, calmness. When there was no calmness around anywhere, he was a rock. And so that stadium bears his name. There have been many others since then that I've been blessed to be a part of. At our first meeting of the naming committee, I put Mrs. Jett's name out on the table. And then I looked around at the committee, and I said, boy, these are some young people. They're not going to know anything about Frankie Lou. You know, but by the way, my definition of a young person is anybody under 70. So, you know, they weren't all that young. But anyway. So I had to pull up some things and to fill out the essence of that wonderful person. If there was ever a person whose last name was like her, is Ms. Jett. She talked fast. She thought fast. She walked fast. And last but not least, she drove fast. That would take another whole evening to talk about that part of it. Wonderful, wonderful person. Everything that we assigned her to do, she did well. Way, way above average. And she was a great upper grade classroom teacher. She was our first elementary curriculum coordinator in this district ever. And during that time, mid-70s to mid-80s, we had a very active agenda for elementary schools, a lot of things going on, a lot of cutting-edge things, and she spearheaded all of that efforts for me and Mr. Bates. A couple of people that worked with her, lots of people worked with her, but learned from her and later became administrators in their own right in this district. And one is here tonight, Billy Nell Curry. Billy Nell, stand up. She's going to kill me if you make her stand up. Billy Nell was she worked with Frankie Lou during that time, and she also then became the principal at Dunaway and the principal at Marvin, so she served those two. The other person was Diane Cooper, and Diane Cooper followed Mrs. Jett as the elementary curriculum person, did an outstanding job, and we're real proud that we can do this for Frankie Lou. She retired in 1988 and moved to Hot Springs Village with her mother. And enjoyed that part of her life, traveled extensively here and yon. We got to make as a family up to see her many times. Had a beautiful home. If you've ever been in Hot Springs Village, a beautiful home on Lake DeSoto. That's one of the older lakes inside the village. Judd would know about it because he plays golf up there probably. But anyway, that's where she lived. We had a lot of great times. And she enjoyed life. Still at the same pace she always was. If you went up there to visit for 3 days, which we did, we'd come home and it'd take me 2 weeks to recover because she was on the move. You have a conversation with Frankie Lou and you're talking about 5 different things at the same time. And you had to sort through all that. And all of it was important, but you had to sort through all of that. But she enjoyed that. And we enjoyed visiting her. And I think the last event that she came to in this district was when we named the vocational school for Mr. Bates. She came here for that. Well, life goes on, and we still visit and everything. And she had no family, so there were no heirs. And she said, I don't know what I'm going to do with my inheritance. I said, well, if you're not going to give it to me, maybe we can have to come up with some ideas. I said, what was it in your life that meant so much to you? When were you the happiest? She said, well, I always felt like the boys and girls in WISD were like my family, and they were. She had no children. It was her family. The teachers she worked with were like her sisters. And so she said, yeah, that's kind of like that. I said, well, usually your family, they inherit. If you have family, they inherit. And I just left her with that, didn't talk about it anymore. She passed away on March 30th, 2016. And about 3 years before her passing, she called me and she said, I've decided what I'm going to do with my heritage. And I said, well, good. What are you going to do? She said, well, you're not in it. I said, well, good. I didn't expect to be. I should have some part of it because I survived riding with you all these years in the car, but, I couldn't do that. But anyway, she says, I've set up a trust. I've set up a trust. And I said, that's wonderful. And then upon her passing, that trust would become in effect. And that's what she did. And every spring, with Mrs. Bridges' help, we meet as a committee, some high school teachers, some people in the community, and we sit around a table and we dole out some money. And that's what we do. And she's going to have a lasting impact on all of these kids that are getting a start, whether they're going to a trade school, whether they're going to college, wherever they're going. Her legacy is going to live on through them. And I'm glad to say it's going to also live on elementary school number 11. And I can hear her talking over my shoulder now. Shut up, you've talked too long. Sit down. 1 more minute. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, we highly recommend the name elementary school for Frankie Lugette, a tremendous educator and a longtime friend.
Okay, board, at this time, based on the recommendation of the naming committee, I will entertain a motion to name elementary school number 11, Frankie Lugette Elementary.
Mr. Autry, I'd like to make the recommendation to name the elementary number 11 after Frankie Lugette Elementary School. And when Ms. Timmerman was talking, I was thinking, when I started teaching here in 1985, Frankie Lugette was my first principal. For 2 years, she was my principal, and so I worked for Frankie Lou. I knew her, and she was a great woman. So I want to make the motion to name elementary number 11 after Frankie Lou Jett Elementary School.
Motion by Mrs. Creedle, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McCutcheon.
Aye.
So I'm going to ask the Education Foundation members to come forward, Mr. Simpson, Dr. Langley.
And Ms. Jett's friends who came out to support as well.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Any of
we'd
Mrs.
love
Jett's
to
friends,
take a
come
picture of
please
y'all.
step forward and take a picture with the board.
Good rider. It's good to see you. I think you're all right.
Yeah, don't tell us about that yet.
Before we move into our reports, I'm going to make a comment. I never really thought I would be at a meeting where I got to name two buildings after two principals that I was introduced to both of their paddles in consecutive years. But Mr. Ray and Mrs. Jett both had that dubious distinction. Okay, now we're going to move to item 6 on our reports. It'll be report number, or letter A, be our superintendent's report. Be Dr. Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Autry and members of the board. As I do each month, I wanted to start out with our monthly enrollment and ADA. As we ended the month of October, our enrollment continues to rise. We were at 11,066 students, and our average daily attendance was at 10,246.39, which is right at 95%, 94.83%. I wanted to talk real briefly about one portion of our plans for moving. In this past week, we were able to share with members of the board in small groups the design plans for the Billy Hancock building, which will become the new Evelyn Coleman Junior High School. This is just a view of the current Hancock building. And just if you look at the colored portions of this floor plan, you'll see the areas that are really being impacted by expansion or by renovation. The first thing, if you notice, the library is having significant renovation done to it. That purple area is really we're redoing and also adding on to that fine arts wing to really make it commensurate with our other junior high schools. And then you'll see a significant addition to our cafeteria and an expansion of that stage area. Currently, the stage is a really small stage area, but it'll be significantly expanded to be on par with our other junior high schools. The lavender and the blue portions, that purple up there on the top, that's the new addition. That's the classroom space, and this building was designed to be added onto. It's interesting. Jonathan Aldis, who is our who's our principal architect, who we work with VOK, he actually was the one who designed Hancock Building 20 some odd years ago. So it's really appropriate that he's helping us with this. This is the upstairs portion of the addition, that L-shaped addition, if you will. And so what you'll see is you have the downstairs portion and then the upstairs portion right there. This is outside. This is actually on that same additional addition to the classroom space. And you'll see you'll have an upstairs and a downstairs collaboration space. Thought that's a really cool picture to show of what the learning areas will look like at this new, really refreshed Coleman Junior High School. And then I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about in a little bit more detail about the Waxahachie ISD naming committee. These are the members of our WISD naming committee. 3 of our trustees, Mr. Autry, Mr. Rogers, and Ms. Timmerman, are all part of that. But you'll see there are some outstanding folks who are part of this particular committee. It is, as Ms. Bryant Contreras said, a very diverse committee. It is reflective of folks who've been here their entire lives and folks who are somewhat new to our community as well. But you'll see some names that you already see on some of our buildings, Mr. Appleton and Mr. Simpson, to name a couple. The charge that Mr. Autry gave to our naming committee was to review all available data and make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees for facility names. The charge that they were not given was to make decisions and recommendations on mascots, colors, etc. And those are ones that folks are very interested in, but that was not the charge of this particular committee. As you heard tonight, the facilities to be named were Neighborhood Elementary School number 10, which is Jimmy Ray Elementary, and Neighborhood Elementary number 11, which is Frankie Lou Jett Elementary School. You know that Neighborhood Elementary is coming along. It's our first building that we've begun. It will open in August of 2024. It's located in the Saddlebrook neighborhood. Frankie Lou Jett Elementary School, that location is yet to be determined. And Mr. Calden is working hard to help us finalize a location, but we're in conversation with some different folks for possible locations for that school. And then finally, there's a lot of interest in the naming of Comprehensive High School number 2. I always point out when we talk about Comprehensive High School number 2, we have Waxahachie Global High School. We're very proud of that. But when we talk about a comprehensive high school, we're talking about one that participates in all of the UIL offerings, band, athletics, etc. And that's exactly what we'll have. It'll be on par with Waxahachie High School. You all know the location of that is just south of our senior center off of Highway 77. It is on track to open in August of 2027. And we've made it clear to the committee that the one thing that you said very clearly to a person is that you did not want to name Comprehensive High School number 2 after a person. We love honoring some of our great educators and folks in our community, but that is not what our desire is for Comprehensive High School number 2. Mr. Avenshine shared with the committee the board policy CW local, which is really the policy that governs how it is that we name facilities. The board is ultimately responsible for making those naming decisions. It may be named for a person, an historic event or place, or a subdivision or geographic area. Policy gives the district the opportunity to form a committee and receive community input when naming facilities. I will note that we put out a survey to our community. We received well over 600 responses. So there's a lot of interest in terms of naming Comprehensive High School number 2. And the committee will ultimately make a recommendation to the board based on a consensus vote of that committee. As you've seen, we named tonight elementaries 10 and 11, and our plan is to bring to y'all in our January board meeting a recommendation for the name of Comprehensive High School number 2. So I wanted to give y'all an overview of the work of our naming committee, and that concludes my presentation tonight.
Any questions for Dr. Hollingsworth? Okay. Moving on to item B, be the informational update on Bond 2023 construction progress. Mr. Mott?
Good evening, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. I'm here to give you your monthly update for the Bond 2023 construction update. Is myself, and then Bob Myers with AGCM is here as well. We're going to go through each proposition and how we're working on each one of them, and now we will have all three being Prop A, Prop B, and Prop C now. So Prop A, as you can see, is on time, on budget. We do now have all the slab poured, which is a milestone to get that all poured. We do have 90% of the parking and driveways poured, and that equals about 3,300 to 3,500 yards of concrete. So if anybody wants to kind of understand that, that's about 350 concrete trucks. There's 8 early morning pours starting at either 2 or 3 a.m. to get this done. All the utilities are in. The storm shelter is up and poured. We're using an ICF style walls, which is foam blocks with concrete poured inside. I'm going to give you a little bit more on that here so you can have a little bit more education on what that is. And then this morning we started swinging steel or red iron in the area A. So here is your monthly, month-to-month location look. You can see there at September 30th. The only slab area that would have been poured at that time is the storm shelter or the gym. And you can see as of October 31st, we had 3 of the 4 areas, and it was last Wednesday that the 4th area was poured. Here's just a true shot of the whole overview so you can kind of understand it. At that shot there, you can see that in the top right corner there, the square, that is the storm shelter, and that is an overview, and it has been poured as well, everything in that view, so it looks a little different. It is a little dirty inside, but this is a foam that's used, so it is very clean, but it was at the time. So we're going to talk about that. The ICF stands for Insulated Concrete Form. It is 18 inches tall. As you can see there on the left, that is one of the forms. So it's 18 inches tall, it's 17 inches left to right, and they're 8 feet long. They're 2 5/8 foam thick on each side. So then there is 12 inches of concrete poured inside with every 18 inches on center, both vertically and horizontally, there's 7/8 round diameter rebar placed in there. So then after this, as you can see in some of these pictures, you can see that's the top of the wall there. And you can see those angles of rebar bent over. So after the joists are hung in there, it'll have a metal deck, and there will be 5 inches of lightweight concrete poured with rebar and ties into that. And that is what will fortify this as a full-on storm shelter because of all this, as you can see.
Well, and one of the things I found fascinating is while your normal footing for your foundation is typically 16 inches deep concrete, the footing for this storm shelter, 4 feet wide, 6 feet deep concrete for the footing for the storm shelter. And the shelter
is all poured and tied to that footing.
Yeah, and that shelter is rated to sustain 250 mile an hour winds.
220 miles.
220. Okay.
For 2 hours.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. So as of this morning, as you can see, this is the first steel beam that has gone up in the building. That was one of the joists into the storm shelter gym. By the end of the day, they had every one of them. There's 10 of them up, and they're all up. So tomorrow, we'll start seeing the deck go, and the plan is sometime tomorrow to have our first columns going up on the outside, as you'll start to see as we go across A. Hopefully, the plan is by the Thanksgiving week, late week of that we'll have all of A, the red iron or steel hung. Now we'll go to Wildman Steam. Again, it is on time, on budget. We have had some savings since the original GMP from the dirt work that we've had. All the permits now are fully obtained. We are starting piers and grade beams this week, and actually piers will be drilled tomorrow morning about 7:30 or 8. We'll start drilling piers out there for that building. Retaining wall started on November 6th, last Monday, I'm sorry. And the pond is about, I'm going to say, 5/8 complete or so. You're going to get to see a little bit more on that here in just a minute. So here is our view for that from September 30th to October 31st. In that picture on the right, that bottom right part you do see is the pond. Right now it's, like I said, about 5/8 finished. It will be fully completed. It's going to go out just a little bit past that road that you see going through there. That was where the dump trucks were coming and going when they're taking dirt up. They'll continue to take that out as we finish the pond with the full retaining wall packed, and then it'll continue to fill out through there. So here's just another overview of that site. So here's the retaining wall. As you can see, those blocks, they are very large blocks. They will go in and they're set, and then as you can see in that top left corner, they are filled full of gravel stone. So it's not the normal retaining wall that you see in your neighborhood being built that tilts at a large portion and eventually will start to pour over. These things start to fall over. We have a lot of problems going on because they weigh a ton. And you can see by the size, there's a gentleman standing right there. You can see by the size of that retaining wall. And here's our pond. If you look at that picture on the left, it doesn't look like it's really that deep. Look on the picture right, those are taken about 5 minutes apart. That dump truck is in the bottom of that pond, full of dirt. So if you see there's a shelf there on the left, on that left picture, you can really see it. It's about 2.5 feet. That shelf is so if there was a child or someone to fall in that pond, they can get to the edge and stand up and be able to get out of that pond. It's not like that being 16, 17 feet, 14 feet deep. They could then have an easier way out on that end. The far end of that will be a sloped where it'll be, but on that side, that's how they can get out of that. So the Hancock building will soon be named Coleman Junior High in the Hancock building. Later this evening, you'll have a GMP set before you. That project, the GMP for that is below the original estimated construction budget. We're already working to obtain permits on that. The first area we will address in that building is the fine arts, being the band hall in that area will be the first area we'll address to build on that area for that. Dr. Hollingsworth showed you a little bit of this, but there you kind of go as to what the building is like. If you want to look in either one of the L-shaped areas, you can see the dark black square in both of those. That is the storm shelter that we'll be adding to this building. Due to the massive amount of area and size we're adding to this building, we are required to have a storm shelter. So that is the area, both upstairs and downstairs, that will be the storm shelter in this building. And it is made to house up to 1,500 people, 1,200 kids, and then all the staff and those kind of things in there. Finley Junior High, the renovation and additions ongoing there. We have just started the discussions on this with the administration team on that and the administration team in the district. Some of the areas we're looking at doing is renovating and adding to the current administration area in that building, renovating and adding the library, renovating and adding onto the kitchen and serving lines, renovating the cafeteria eating area, adding a choir room space, and renovating the current fine arts area in that building. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. As you can see, the colors there, as you can see, that's the area that so it's basically I'm going to call it just the backbone of that building, straight up through the middle of that building. That area in the orange is the administration area. We will be adding area out under the awning area there. We don't necessarily out in front of that building, but all the way up into the awning. We probably will be doing some landscaping and generalization in the front on top of that. The yellow is the library. The I don't know what you want to call that, salmon color, I guess, is the cafeteria eating and cafeteria serving lines. And you can see that little area outside the current building. We will be moving the freezer, refrigerator, and dry storage. Will be outside the building, but it's connected to. There'll be a door just like it would any place else, but it gives us more room for the growth that we're going to need in that kitchen area by moving those outside. And then the pink area is the fine arts area, and that area you see right there next to the other, that is the choir room that we'd be adding on to there out there. And redoing a little bit of that, the doorways and so forth back there, on that back area.
Pretty
Now-
significant, it's a pretty significant redo of that fine arts area, but you'll notice kind of a pattern here. What we did with the new Coleman Junior High, what we're doing at Finley, is really prepping these for the long haul, so that we kind of have a standard in place of what you're going to have on all of your junior high schools for fine arts.
Yes, sir. When we did do the fine arts area at Coleman, we kind of are trying to build a standard for the fine arts in the junior highs for our buildings, as sizes and shapes and those kind of things. We're trying to get them all up as we can through this bond as we can. Now, the one thing you will notice is this: we are not adding a storm shelter. We are not adding enough significant space to the building that requires us to have a storm shelter by law. Comprehensive high school number 2, Prop B. As y'all are aware, y'all have 2 or 3 full campuses, one that is under construction, 2 that are currently completed. The under construction is Eagle Mountain, Saginaw. The 2 that are currently open is Burleson Centennial and Denton High School. You also toured a Louisville High School's athletic gym area. With all that information, we have also conducted our first launch meeting with VLK and a committee of WISD. It is made up of campus administrators from high school administrators, elementary administrators, and junior high administrators, teachers, city leaders, parents, and students. When I say students, we're not talking just high school students. There are some younger ones that could be attending this high school if they live in the right place. So it is kind of significant for them to be having some input on that, and kind of neat in the long run if they do happen to attend this area. The next launch meeting will be on November 14th. Prop C, facility upgrades. So for that one, we had a total of 13 campuses. This does not include Simpson or WHS. For that, we had $58 million and a little change on that. And it's 419 different line items. When I say different line items, if I say a playground is one line item, but if I say turf, that's a whole separate line item on it. So it could be 2 line items and those kind of things. So far, we've completed 50 line items, totally completed and paid for. We have 47 more under a PO with parts being out for purchase, those kind of things. And so with completed, we've paid $2.6 million on the ones that we have listed the POs for. We have a projected $9 million savings, but as of today, with the 50 line items, we've saved about $2 million from the original $58 million. And those at the end, when we're finished, said and done, those will all, any saved money will go back to those campuses. We'll talk to principals and administration staff to say, what else can we do besides priority 1 and priority 2? We do have priority 3 and priority 4. We can look at those and see if they've been addressed at the time or not. Here's some of your completed projects you've heard about: turf at playgrounds, awnings, gym floors, a couple of roofs, and then some classrooms, halls and classrooms at Finley Junior High. Now, the one thing we did not do is the areas that will be being renovated, we did not touch those floors, so we're not going to have to go back and redo them. So that's the nice thing about it, is we stopped before that because we knew there would be additions going on. Some of the things we're working on: a full playground replacement at Clift Elementary, ID badge reader door handles at Dunaway Elementary, at Shackelford Elementary. Felty is getting a shade over one of its playgrounds. That will be starting actually Monday, next week, I believe. The weather put us back. It was supposed to be started today, but the weather last week pushed us back a little bit on that one. Wedgeworth is going to be getting a replacement for one of its playgrounds, full playground. That's turf, play cover, and a playground. Marvin is, they dug the poles for the shade playgrounds. Next week, I believe, the fall material, which will be one of those is getting a pour and play, one of those will have turf put on it, on their playgrounds. Northside Elementary is getting all brand new doors inside. If you've been in that building, Ms. Timmerman, those doors may still be there from when you taught. And so we're replacing all those doors in that building, and they're getting the new ID style badge door handles. TC Wildman building is getting the same thing done there. Finley is getting exterior doors except the main entrance and the back entrance, because, again, those are going to be done through the renovations. And then the AC units, we have 257 AC units on 8 different campuses are going to be being touched. Those we'll probably start to see around December, Christmas time. I think we're going to schedule on about probably 2 campuses at that time. So you'll see some cranes, possibly some helicopters, putting air conditioning up and down on roofs and things like that. So it's a busy time for all this. Now I'm going to turn it over to Bob Myers with the AGCM report.
Thank you, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. This evening, I want to share with you, this is a document that we use on all projects every time we're on a site. So I'd like to go through this document and just tell you a little of the highlights of it. One of the most exciting things is the header. Going to get to change that to Jimmy Ray from elementary school number 10. So that sounds pretty good. What we do, this was a report from that project on October 19th. This happened to be a 3 a.m. pour. So what we record is the site conditions. It was dry that evening. It was 61 degrees at that time of the start of the pour. So we did not have any weather delays noted for that particular date. Next item is critical path. These projects, as Stephen mentioned, are all on time, on budget, so we have not had that issue. What that is a critical path issue would be on this project. We had to put the drive around the pad area before we could go vertical with a storm shelter. So had it rained 3 or 4 weeks and that had been delayed, that would have been an impact on the critical path at the end of the project. But we have not had any of those issues to date. We note who's on site from the contractor standpoint. Project manager, superintendent, and some of their staff were on site. We list the different subcontractors, how many are on the site for that work. We mentioned what's going on that day. We had the Area A pour, was the morning pour. The IFC installation was going on that day, and they were working on the underground plumbing, electrical, and Area C. And the other thing that we do, the testing lab, Roan Engineering is on this project. They were there at 3 in the morning. They check the concrete. They do the testing, slump test on the concrete is a normal thing, and then they do the cylinders to check compressive strength. So we watch those. We get copies of those reports as they come through. So we're monitoring that, making sure that everything, and so far everything has been really good. Thank you. We mentioned what equipment's on site, and then we have we note any deficiencies that we see, and we create a deficiency log that we track those with. I'll show you a picture on the next slide, but we had the pump truck, and the pump truck was always directed by BTC, the contractor. In a particular case, the pump truck driver took it upon himself to back up without being assisted, somebody observing where all of his equipment was, and part of it did hit a curb. And so that's been damaged. BTC was made aware of that immediately. They said, we will get it taken care of. So we know that they'll have some additional concrete work coming in the next few weeks, so they would probably do that at that same time. Also, there's some staining from that truck was on the road path there. So they will take care of that. And then this last picture, you can see the bottom 2 pictures. You can see where the curb was cracked. Not a major issue, but obviously needs to be repaired. And then we just take pictures. Anytime we're on site, we're probably taking 20 to 30 pictures. So if somebody sees something later, like I thought we had a clean out in the slab area, we could go back to our photos and try, hopefully find, here it is. So anyway. So we have that in our documentation as well. So, any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you guys very much.
Good work.
Okay, our next item C, informational report on WISD's balanced scorecard, priority 3, community and stakeholder relationships. Dr. Avery?
Good evening, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. I don't know if there's a better example of community and stakeholder relationships than what we saw tonight. And the folks that participated and gave their time for those important decisions. And just one little brag from me, I saw 3 of my elementary school teachers up here at the front. Ms. Spitzer, Ms. McMichael, and Ms. Hughes all had the pleasure of having to deal with me as an elementary kid, and they still talk to me, so it's always really cool. I brought my co-pilot up here, Jenny Bridges, to go through what we're doing with Priority 3 community and stakeholder relationships, because that's pretty much in her wheelhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Averett. Board, I am excited to talk with you about Priority 3, our performance objectives, and some of the things that we are doing to meet those performance objectives. So 3.1 is to annually increase the satisfaction and engagement of students and families. We, as you will probably remember, created and distributed a survey in spring 2023. We used our new survey company, Qualtrics, to do that, which resulted in a fantastic, oh, sorry, I need to just skip to that slide. A fantastic response rate increase. So we are very excited about that. We are currently working to fine-tune those survey questions based on feedback received, and we will launch our 2024 survey for students, parents, and staff before spring break in 2024. We also have a key strategic action to develop and implement connection and collaboration rounding, so listening and learning with our community to determine their level of engagement. One of those things that we are doing is our Superintendent's Advisory Council, which is a diverse group of students from every campus in our district. We held the first meeting of the 23-24 school year on November 10th. 2 sessions were held, one with elementary students, so 4th and 5th grade students, and one with secondary students. Both student groups provided very valuable feedback about their experiences in WISD, and it is just flat fun to sit in a room full of kids. So we had a great time. In addition, we have a goal of holding a town meeting for families once annually. This year, we're going to be holding 2. We have some big things happening. As I know everyone knows, we've got some campus moves for the 24-25 school year, and that will also require us to do some rezoning. And so we wanted everyone to have an opportunity to come out, talk with us, and so we will be holding 2 town hall meetings in January to discuss those things with our community. In addition, Dr. Hollingsworth continues to do regular Facebook Live sessions. He's conducted 3 since the beginning of the school year. We've got another one scheduled for Friday, and our community really enjoys those. We get a lot of people watching later and asking questions, so it's just a great opportunity for us to connect with our community. All right, so priority 3.2 is annually increase the engagement of community and stakeholders. So one of those key strategic actions is that Dr. Hollingsworth and other district leaders will regularly speak with community organizations, and that district and campus leaders will be involved in community organizations and support the events held by those organizations. So we have people who are involved in the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, Lions Club, among others, as well as volunteering their time with organizations so on the board or as volunteers, such as the Ellis County Children's Advocacy Center, the United Way of West Ellis County, Waxahachie YMCA, and Waxahachie Care. So very important organizations within our community that we continue to be involved with. So key strategic action 3.2C is that we will continue to participate in and support community-wide events. So not only will we continue to host those community events, but we will go out into the community and support community events. And also, we have a goal of our student organizations participating in at least one community service activity annually. So some great examples from this school year thus far. We had a great time partnering for the 3rd time with the City of Waxahachie, HEB, and other community partners for the Back to School Bash. Our band hosted their ice cream social, and we also had Meet the Indians. In September, we hosted for the 2nd year our Going Gold game to support Waxahachie ISD families who have experienced going through childhood cancer. We also hosted Grand Friends Week the first responder breakfast, and we had our WISD 101 kickoff for our second cohort, and they've since met twice more. And in October, we hosted our Pink Out volleyball game, as well as the homecoming parade, which I think we can say is one of the biggest events in our community each year. Looking forward, we are excited for the second year of the Great Give Back, where our students go out into the community and serve organizations and businesses who give so much to us. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bridges. And so next month, it'll be pretty much the Ryan Calden show with our financial integrity priority. And I will come back with a review of student growth related to extracurricular participation. We have not reported on that yet this fall. We decided to wait until we kind of wrapped up this fall's activities. I hope we're still playing football, though, by the time our December board meeting is. So I hope we don't have a football update until after that, but I've got to keep my fingers crossed we're going to keep winning. So that's our report for this month, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you for Dr. Averett. Ms. Bridges? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we report D, informational report on the instructional materials selection process for 2024-2025. Dr. Binnicker?
All right. Thank you, Board. Dr. Hollingsworth. I didn't think I'd be here so soon to talk about instructional materials adoption, but I wanted to give you an overview of this process and what this will look like over the next 5 to 6 months. So we actually had our first meeting at the beginning of October to map out this process and what it would look like for the courses that are coming up for materials adoption and TEKS review in this next school year. So there are 23 courses. It's everything science, kindergarten through 12th grade, that's up for adoption. So there are new TEKS coming out, and then we'll need to adopt new resources to go along with that. And then the list of CTE courses that you see there on the right side of this page. We'll have about 70 staff members involved in this selection process. There'll be at least 2 teachers from each elementary campus, one from kinder through 2nd grade, one from 3rd through 5th grade, and then one from each grade level in junior high and high school. And then we'll also have administrators, parents, and community members that will be a part of these committees. So like I said, approximately 70 people. This process, actually, I should have put October, but that was the first meeting that we had. We'll actually run through March. So what we will do throughout this process is bring to you an update every couple of weeks about the process that we have gone through. We're currently waiting for the rubric from TEA to evaluate these science materials. It was supposed to come out in November, then they said December. I think their current deadline is January, so we should have the rubric to evaluate these materials in January. We'll start soliciting vendors. We've already had vendors reaching out, wanting to come and talk to us and share their resource. So we will bring a smaller committee of people together to start looking at the giant list. I think there's 27 science books on this list right now that we'll start narrowing down with a smaller committee that we can then send back to the campus committee so they can review these at the campus level and then bring feedback to us to discuss it at the larger committee meetings. We'll have samples in person at the TLI building for at least a month. We'll work with DEIC and some other district-wide committees. Region 10 usually brings and does a vendor showcase, so they'll bring some of these materials to us so we can look at them again. We'll post them online virtually and have some virtual sessions, so if someone couldn't attend an in-person event, they can jump in on one of these online Zoom virtual events and get some information about these books, and then they'll be publicly in our buildings, or people can come and vote on them and view them and then vote on them, excuse me. Some of the things that we're going to use to evaluate these resources, we'll of course use board policy EF, look at the student-centered learning. How does this work for our kids? Does it provide an online resource that integrates with our technology devices that we've got in the classroom? What supports are there for our teachers? And then again, the assessment resources that are included with this. One of the other things that we're gonna add to this is, of course, community feedback and campus feedback. So throughout these meetings, we'll get feedback from everybody that's involved in the process, and then looking at other factors that we think are important to us, looking at the price, looking at student data privacy, and then making sure that whatever resources we pick align with Waxahachie values. So to give you a high-level overview of this process, started in October, would like to bring a recommendation to you in March and hopefully bring it back to you in April for a vote. And I said I would bring you an update in January to let you know where we are in this process and what materials we've narrowed it down to. Let's skip that last one. Like I said, so we'll bring something to you, final recommendation, hopefully in March, and then let you review that from March to April, and then hopefully bring it for a vote at that point. So just to give you another example or another view here of all the opportunities that people will have to come and view these materials, the online and virtual, and then the in-person sessions where I'll bring more information back to you. That is actually the last slide, if there are any questions on this process for you all. I know I went through that one kind of fast for you, but.
Questions for Dr. Brineker? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item E, or overview and discussion of the timing related to campus moves as part of the district's 17,000 plus student facilities plan.
Good evening, Board.
Colin.
Dr. Hollingsworth. Wanted to give you just an update on the pending campus moves as we go through the various projects. Just kind of a refresher of the originally proposed campus moves. So in the summer of '24, we were going to open Jimmy Ray Elementary. We were also going to move Wildman to its new home. We were going to move Global over to the TC Wildman building. We were going to move Coleman Junior High across the street to the Hancock building, and we were going to open a freshman center in the Coleman building. And that sounds like a lot of moving, because it is. And honestly, it got a little bit concerning on our end, because that's a lot of moving parts. And then again, in the summer of '27, we were going to go back and move again, because we were going to vacate the freshman center, and those students were going to then go to WHS or to Comprehensive High School number 2 based off zoning. Unfortunately, at this point, Wildman Elementary, the new Wildman, is not going to be open in time for a summer of 2024 move. We know this. BCC has been very open and communicative with us at this point and let us know that that's not going to happen. So we're looking closer to a Thanksgiving of '24 to Christmas of '24 timeframe for that to be open. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try to move somebody into a new building for 1 month before they leave for a couple of weeks over Christmas. So we're really saying by the end of the fall 2024 semester that the new Wildman building will be open, which is now our new target. So our goal is to move Wildman into that building, into the new Wildman STEAM Academy over that Christmas break between 2024 and June of '25. So things start the '25 spring semester in their new building, which will delay Global moving out of the Hancock building and back into the TC Wildman building. It will also delay moving the Coleman Junior High from the old high school into the Hancock building, which will also delay the opening of a freshman center in the in the Coleman building. That's why I was calling it the old high school. Man, I made it to 2 slides before I messed up on the buildings. Sorry, Board. So with all that, we are hitting pause a little bit just because of necessity of the buildings not being available for the moves at that point. So the new plan would be, with Wildman opening, we're hoping that we can get Global moved over spring break of '25. That would be a best case scenario. That would give us a couple of months from December of '24 till about the end of February of '25 to go through and do any of the renovations and modifications that we want without students present in the building. That's our goal, and walking it with Mr. Zant, we don't believe the renovation list is very extensive at that building. We will be working diligently to try to do as much as we can this summer and when the Wildman students are moved out over that winter break to get it ready for spring break. That's the best case scenario. If we don't make that, we will do, in the summer of '25, it would be our goal to move Global into the Wildman building, move Coleman into the Hancock building, and open the freshman 9th grade center, or the Waxahachie Freshman Center in the Hancock building for the 25-26 school year. Considerations that or items that we considered that led to this modification of plans. I'm going to start a little bit with the disadvantages just because I believe that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. On the disadvantage side, we have been looking at demographic estimates from our demographer, and we're looking at about 130 additional students that would be enrolled in Waxahachie High School by delaying this move. So one of our considerations is to take the 2 existing portable buildings that are currently over at Simpson Elementary and move them to Waxahachie High School to kind of help with those additional 130 students that are projected to be enrolled by this delay. We are also looking at implementing a 4 lunch period schedule over at Waxahachie High School, as that will give less tightly packed lunches by having 4 of them instead of 3. One thing to consider is that student schedules may not be able to contain all first choices. So when students put down elective choices, just depending on the number of seats available and the number of sections being offered, we may not be able to guarantee all first selections. It is unfortunately a modification of what we originally told voters, but we also know that the building, Wildman, as we originally imagined it, is not going to be ready in the time frame that we originally thought. So it is being reactionary to a change in construction plans at that point. In terms of advantages, we do believe it's a little bit less confusing to our parents. At one point, when Wildman was originally not going to be ready, a plan was developed to move Wildman into Jimmy Ray Elementary along with the students who were zoned for Jimmy Ray, and then move the Wildman kids out after a semester, which would have caused grand confusion and all kinds of extra steps for those parents. It also, in zoning for Jimmy Ray Elementary, would have caused some people to be zoned to Jimmy Ray, but then not actually go to Jimmy Ray for the first year. They would have to stay at their original campus so that we could put those 2 populations together within that building. So it was going to lead to a lot of confusion. The new revised plan is cleaner and does not involve all those confusing moves. We also anticipate it will yield some cost savings to the district. We anticipate there will be fewer moving crates rented, and they will be rented for a shorter period of time. We also believe that we will need fewer portable buildings during that period as well. When we walked the current Hancock building with Mr. East in preparation for Coleman Junior High moving over, he advised that he was thinking he would need at least 9 additional classrooms for that building to function as they're currently using. Well, 9 additional classrooms is 5 additional portable buildings. And so at an average cost of roughly $80,000, we knew that that was going to be close to $500,000 that we'd be putting into infrastructure over at Hancock that really would only be necessary for 1 year. And so it didn't seem like it was a really good use of taxpayer resources. It would also create 1 less year of additional staffing at the Waxahachie Freshman Center. I can't tell you that those are not positions that we're going to add in some part as we go, but we would not have to add the entirety of that Freshman Center staff with this additional plan.
Yeah, and I'll just add there, Ryan, a couple of things that we may have to add would be an additional assistant principal to have those additional kids at WHS next year. We need an additional counselor as well. And we will also want to look at our security coverage because we may want to add 1 or 2 additional security folks. And those are folks that once we pull freshmen out for the fall of 25, we would be able to then send those staff over to that freshman center with them.
And then, as I was saying earlier, if we could get just that period from January through the end of February, that would give us a little bit of time to go into global and try to do some of those renovations in-house. If that works, that would be great. It would give us a little bit of extra time to get students out of Hancock and let the construction complete on that building with extra time without students on campus. If it doesn't work, we believe we can get the construction done, the renovations and expansions over at Hancock done timely so that we can still open for the 25-26 school year at all those campuses. So the majority of it, I made a little schedule, but it's a little small to see. But the main part is all the August of 24 openings would essentially be delayed until 2025, except for Jimmy Ray Elementary, as we anticipate its completion in time for the 24-25 school year. With that, any questions from the board that I can answer?
I've got a couple. What is the estimated senior class that's graduating this year at Waxahachie High School?
The senior class, at Waxahachie High School, the entire senior class across the district is 719 students this year. So a class of roughly 85 at Global. I'm going to go backwards. That's going to be 630-ish.
630?
Give or take. Yes, sir.
Do we know what our current 8th grade enrollment is right now?
Current 8th grade enrollment for this year is 832 students.
Okay. So we're gaining about 200 students at Waxahachie High School over the next year, just at that grade level. I understand people are going to move in, but
So yes and no. So some of those students, global right now is sitting at about 830. It's our anticipation that they would grow back.
that was my next question.
Yes,
What was
sir.
the anticipation enrollment of that being a Glow? I'm trying to develop something more than just 1 year, is why I'm
Absolutely.
asking.
Our anticipation is that global would be about 100 to 115 in any given year. So you're looking at a campus anywhere from 400 to 430 on the top end. That would be our expectation.
So it'd be a net gain at Waxahachie High School of a little over 100 kids,
Yes, sir.
just grade level. What about 11th grade and 7th grade?
11th grade currently is 851, and 7th grade 820, so a net of 30 students. I'm assuming you would like to continue down the row.
Well, I wasn't going to, but go ahead and give that to
Okay.
me.
10th grade is currently in the district 993,
Okay.
and 6th grade 774.
So, based on those same calculations, 12th and 8th, 11 and 7, we're actually going to gain less students in 2 years than we are in 1 year. You got 851 that are juniors and 820 that are in 7th grade.
By matriculation,
Right.
yes, but you're
Right,
not
right.
accounting for new move-ins.
Right, I understand.
Yes, sir.
So if we're only adding 100-plus students a year for the next couple of years, why don't we look at just not having a 9th grade center and toughen it out for those 2 or 3 years?
And that definitely can be a consideration as we continue going forward. I think at this point, because it's not a ton of additional cost going into the former high school, I think that's going to stay on the plan, on the agenda, but it's absolutely something that we can reconsider as we get closer. As these demographic estimates get updated every quarter, we can look at that and see what the changes are.
So you don't think it's going to be a ton of additional cost to open a 9th grade center?
I believe that our plan at the moment is to leave the furniture, to leave the building essentially the way it is right now. There will be some consideration that we'll have to put into for extracurriculars, for CTEs, for components of that ilk, but we're not looking at necessarily state-of-the-art facilities in a short time in that building.
What about the staff and transportation component?
Absolutely. So the staffing component, that staff that we're going to be hiring as we look for that facility, as we start looking at a second comprehensive high school, we are looking at some of that staff being hired a little bit early, but we're also looking at a majority of that staff coming from Waxahachie High School as well, sharing that staff through those campuses, because we are essentially taking all of the freshmen off of Waxahachie High School, so it would free up some staff to go serve over at Comprehensive High School number 2. But to your point, sir, yes, there are absolutely staffing considerations that would go into that as we look at it, and we definitely could save some sections and some personnel units by consolidating and not having a freshman center.
I mean, it's no secret. I've stated before I despise portable buildings. We already have 2. You know, if it requires acquiring a couple of more just for a couple of years, I think it may be more cost effective to look at that instead of opening up a 9th grade campus for a net gain of 100 to 150 students.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, I may be wrong, but
We'll work with our demographer, and we'll also look at those options to bring to the board.
and I know we discussed this a little bit this week about bringing our demographer in. How old is our demographer's data that he's given us?
Generally, he's using the previous quarter's housing data, so generally not any more than 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So he's waiting on the third quarter to close at the end of September, and then that data is released generally the mid to a little bit late mid of the next month, so October, which then means he's in November giving us the most recent update for that third quarter of housing data.
I just think looking at that long-term consideration, not making the move, takes care of your disadvantage of modification of what we told voters. But when you tell the voters, hey, we didn't spend $2-3 million.
Yes, sir.
I think that alleviates the concerns they should have that it modified from what we told them.
Yes, sir.
That's where I was going with that.
I appreciate your input.
Anyone else?
And if there's any concern from the voters, we can, I don't know, I appreciate us not biting off more than we can chew. For those of you that remember, I think it was the summer of 2018, when we tried to do all that. I think we were moving we were opening Coleman, opening Wildman, I mean, that was a pretty tough.
Yes, ma'am.
And that wasn't even, I think, near as much as this, so.
The number of moving parts is why we're here tonight and having a session in the first place. Yeah, to your point. Yes, ma'am.
And I do like the fact of slowing it down and being a little flexible on when you plan on moving. Anyone else? All right. Moving on to report F, informational report on current beverage contract with Keurig Dr. Pepper. Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir. All right. Getting all my stuff together. Board, it was requested that we have a conversation about the beverage contract, so wanted to just provide you some information and update on where we are. Our current beverage contract with Keurig Dr. Pepper began August 1st of 21, and it goes through July 31st of 24. So we have roughly 7 months-ish left in our beverage contract. The district published an RFP for beverage services in April of 21. We received 2 responses in May of 2021. Those responses were reviewed in June of 21. 4 staff members, myself included, reviewed the 2 responses from the 2 companies. We each independently scored them, and we had the same rankings between the 2 respondents. We felt that the Keurig Dr. Pepper response was the one that represented best value for the district at that time. Recommendation was made, and the Board of Trustees approved that recommendation July 12th of 21 at a meeting to approve the 3-year Keurig Dr. Pepper agreement. Again, it expires July 31st of 2024. So why any beverage contract for a district? A beverage contract really is a useful tool to provide staff with the opportunities to enjoy a soft drink if they so choose. The beverage contract is not geared towards students. All the food and beverages that are to be provided to students are governed by the Texas Department of Agriculture, and they restrict any food or beverage to meet certain meal pattern guidelines and or be Smart Snack compliant. Generally, a bottle of water is going to be Smart Snack compliant. Most everything else that would be sold under vending machine would not. As part of our agreement, the district receives 250 cases of free bottled water annually. These products are distributed at graduations, board meetings, district meetings, interviews, etc. Downside to any beverage contract is the exclusivity and the product offerings. The companies that are giving the district the incentives of a beverage contract want you to use their products. It generally makes sense as to why they would do that, but that is one of the big downsides is the exclusivity. When signed with a company, they want to promote all of their brands. Beverage contract generally does include higher priced beverages than are commercially available. Beverage contract is more of a service than it is a product. I'd say that it's more of a service because there's value in a beverage contract, which generally comes from vending machines and drink coolers that are provided by Keurig Dr. Pepper to all of our campuses, PTOs, and other groups that ask for it at no cost to them. These are included, the upkeep, the maintenance, and the renting of these units are completely included within the cost. Keurig Dr. Pepper handles all cash deposits, all equipment and product restocking, replacement, and repairs. Staff are not using district time constantly running to local stores to purchase drinks for meetings, interviews, and special events. I would tell you just on that end that we have roughly 16 campuses, and there would be anywhere close to about 5 or 6 departments that would be making these runs to Walmart every week to go get drinks if that were the case. Pricing of the beverage contracts includes all delivery charges, equipment rental charges, equipment maintenance charges, and value of donated products. And when viewed across the entirety of the district, a beverage contract really is more of a service than it is a service for staff while mitigating costs than it is just about the products themselves. With that, be happy to answer any questions the board may have about our beverage contract.
I have one. So as a parent, my son is with FFA, and they're holding a meeting. And if I were to choose as a parent to donate a product for a meeting that they were going to have. Is there anything that would prohibit me as a parent from making a donation of my, for my kid?
Absolutely not. There's nothing in the agreement for donations. Any donated product, whether it's Dr. Pepper, whether it's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or any other product, excluding alcohol, can be sold as it's received as a donation.
Thank you.
And sir, to answer just to further your question, that bit of communication has been passed along to all of the campus and department secretaries that have asked the same question. So we don't encourage them per se in writing to go around the rules, but that is one way that they can do that.
So more specifically, taking out the word donation, would this contract prohibit any small group from bringing a non-Keurig Dr. Pepper product onto our campus?
The contract states that we, the district, cannot use funds that are ours or that we hold in a fiduciary capacity to buy products outside of the Dr. Pepper contract. Any group, however they get those beverages, whether they've donated them or whether somebody has bought them outside of using group funds, they're welcome to have those products and they're welcome to sell them as they wish.
I know it's been a while since you did a RFQ. Was there that much difference in the two responses that you got?
There really wasn't. The biggest response differences that we had, the equipment was roughly the same, the stocking was roughly the same. The commission and the pricing was better with this proposal, which is why we went with it as compared to the other proposal that we received. This proposal, while it does have a fairly significant minimum order or minimum purchase requirement, the other proposal had a longer lead time for purchases, and they had a very similar, if not larger, requirement for minimum purchase.
So do booster clubs fall into that category as well? They have to use Keurig Dr. Pepper products?
Yes, sir.
To clarify. Can Mr. Jacobs interact with this?
No.
That's not a good idea, no, sir.
Okay, you just said that they have to use it. What if it's donated to the Booster Club?
Yeah, the same donation rules would apply for Booster Club. If it's donated by the members and the Booster Club itself is not writing a check, they can use they can sell whatever donated products they've received. So, one thing, child nutrition was exempted in this policy. Child nutrition does have a different set of guidelines. So under the state requirements, they have to do their own procurement when they're outside of this policy. So in lieu of doing that, you have approved a multi-region purchasing cooperative that they're a member of through Region 10. And so that's why they go through Region 10 to get their pricings.
Have you ever heard from our vendor about a complaint that someone was using other products? Or, I mean, do they do audits? I mean,
No, sir. I've actually never heard of them coming out and doing an audit or complaining of anybody not using it. I will say that they've been very easy to work with. We have actually forwarded a couple of requests to them for products that we don't really know if they have or if they service, and they have approved it every single time for us to use an outside vendor, either because of the scope and nature of what was requested. Last year, there was a request for juices to be sold in a juice box, and that wasn't a product that they carried, and it wasn't one that they cared to force us to buy their product in, and so they very generously told us, yes, you can use whichever product you want. We realize that's important to you. So that we've reached out to them, and they've been very easy to work with.
And the cases that we get, I know in the past, back in the day, we used to get so many cases to be distributed to the different clubs and organizations for gatherings. Are the cases pretty much all spoken for, or does high school get so many cases for their meeting and Global get so many for their meetings, or how does that work?
So realistically, as our district continues to grow and the number of district level meetings continues to grow in our district, a majority of those stay local and are used both administratively. They're also used at Lumpkin Stadium but a majority of them are used district-wide for district-wide events and activities. But we do provide those beverages at graduations for both WHS and for Global.
Do you think that's something that when we renegotiate this contract in the summer, that we may be able to tweak a little bit? Because realistically, the XYZ club is using very little product. It seems to me that that would be a thorn in their side to want to deal with anyway.
To be really honest, I don't know that it makes a whole lot of economic sense to continue with a beverage contract long-term. I would tell you that historically speaking, beverage contract usually came with a really nice commission up front. This is back in the days when you could sell soft drinks to students. It would usually come with a really nice commission up front, and we would turn around and fund scholarships with those commissions. Since the rules have changed and that's not allowable anymore, that upfront commission really has evaporated, and it turns into more of the product, and it turns into a higher commission on the back end for those who are actually making the sales. Realistically, the sales are not that great. As our staff has become more health conscious, there's just not a whole lot of activity at the vending machines. Now, that's a gross generalization across the district. Sure, you have more activity at some campuses than you do others, but it's not a leading bellwether as we go about, wanting to do or make decisions about things. If we abandon a beverage contract, then we're looking at purchasing of vending machines or looking at some other method. Truly, I think we could come up with a plan that would not necessitate a beverage contract. But I'm telling you that on the fly. I'm telling you that before sitting down with all of our groups, say athletics and fine arts, that might have concession stands that might think differently.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of the small,
Mm-hmm.
like the young man who's here tonight.
Yes, sir.
Small. I don't think anybody wants to build Coke machines. I think that's probably better professionals.
Yep.
But I like, to your point, Mr. Schofield, you could do something where you say, under a certain, like, activities that are going to include under a certain number of participants or something like that. And then we were able to cover club meetings and those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So do you not anticipate going out for another contract when this one expires?
Honestly, right now, my thought is no, but this is also November.
Okay.
And we've got till about April before we really have to make a hard and fast decision on it. Truly putting pen to paper and figuring out what the replacement cost would be will kind of help us determine our next steps on that.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, last item on our reports is Report G, informational report on a possible change to a three-tier transportation system.
Good evening, Dr. Hollingsworth. Good evening, Board. Thank you for having me, allowing me to come out tonight. Christian Grippa, the Director of Transportation. My objective tonight is to kind of talk about the possibility in the future of moving to more of a three-tier bill schedule as opposed to two. I'm kind of wanting to get a process started, invoke some thought, invoke some conversation, and see about the possibility to see if it benefits a district as a whole, maybe down the line. And me, obviously, I'll be talking about how it benefits the district as it relates to transportation, and what a three-tier system can do as opposed to a two-tier system. So, three-tier system is separates by grade level. We got the elementary. Currently, we have our secondary all together, our middle school and our high school together. That is where we are currently very tight. A three-tier system will take it then and separate the high school and the junior highs so that we can have a third tier What that allows us to do is not use as much equipment at the same time. We are not overpopulated on our buses so much with our elementary, but the secondary level is extremely high. We have more kids that ride in the secondary level, and all those campuses together means we are just transporting a lot of kids. The three things that transportation really cares about in our routing is the number of students we have on the bus, the length of which they have to ride the bus, and the timing to get them to where they need to be, whether it be campuses or home. And with the current tier and our growth, that secondary level is just kind of where we are struggling with the equipment that we have to do what we need to do with them. Our schedule on there currently it shows what we are currently using is a 2-tier, and there's an example below. I did update that. I apologize. I guess that didn't get updated. I had a couple of examples on there. And so this example of a 3-tier system is actually one that Mansfield ISD uses. You can see that they go high school, elementary, and junior high. The other one that I had an example of was the Red Oak ISD. They have a 3-tier system, and their system is elementary is early, junior high is in the middle, and high school is late. And there are pluses and minuses to both. For transportation needs, the one that's up there is the one that suits us a little better in different ways. We can pick up the older kids earlier when it's not as dark, but also we can have more buses available with field trips. They can go for elementary schools. They can go earlier, stay later. We can have our extracurriculars, UIL, sports, that can leave campuses earlier, and we can have those buses available for them when normally we are using all of our equipment on routes, taking kids to school or taking kids home, which is not ideal, the position that we're in right now, because we have to do that before anybody can go to their extracurriculars. We have to transport kids. This type of a system is something that would relieve some extra equipment, some extra buses for stuff like that. As we continue to grow, we'll kind of see more and more of that tightness evolve. Right now, we have 51 routes or shuttles and 55 buses. That does not leave a lot of extra. As our campuses grow, as the building of the new campuses grow, it just involves more and more need. We have 11 modified routes. We do have some new buses coming into the grant that we received. 4 of our older buses will be replaced with new buses, which is fantastic. That doesn't necessarily help us with number because it is replacing just old, kind of worn down equipment. However, it is extremely nice to have. It does take about a year to get in a bus. Right now, if you guys can, hey, we got this much money, go order buses, that'd be awesome, but we'd have about a year before we got them and would be able to use them. But we do have those coming in. The prices of buses have gone through the roof. 3 or 4 years ago, we're talking about less than 6 figures. Now, every bus, it doesn't matter if it's special needs or regular, we're talking about $132,000. One of the pluses of a 3-tier system is through the next 3 years or so, we will be able to use what we have for longer. Projected out the next 3 years, if we are continue to grow only on growth, we're talking about needing 6 to 7 more buses just to handle the growth that we are taking in. And at $132,000, we're talking close to $1 million. If we can go to a 3-tier system and separate that secondary out into those different tiers, we'll probably only need in the next 3 years maybe 2 more buses, 2 more of the equipment that we need to make it happen. We're talking about a savings of upside of $650,000 through a tier system that changes for us because of the equipment that we now have available. That's just for need. What we want, the wants, is about 6 to 8 more buses to get to those things that the district is looking for as a want. School of choice routes, school day shuttles, field trips, extracurriculars where we even have more available to use when needed. Not just at the end of the routes when they can, when they're available, when we're done, but hey, we can leave when we need to get there at appropriate timing and stuff like that. That's the want. The need is still there. Hand safety by separating age levels. There is a very big age difference between our middle school, junior high, and our high school, and it shows on our bus routes. But having that separated out at different times helps kids that aren't waiting at the bus stop at the same time and stuff like that as well. Easier on some parents to get students in school in a more timely manner. You know, that separation out of time helps, in my experience, helps the parents as opposed to hurts them. They know when their kids at different levels are going at what times. Older siblings can help with younger siblings because of the separation and stuff like that. With all that being said, with the discussions that go on, if it's decided that it's something that can help, obviously our campuses have to take a hold of that and see if it's beneficial for them as well. See if that timing and how it's structured and what's done helps at the campus, or it can be dealt with at the campus without hurting them as well with their timings and their needs. And so they'll have to decide if that's something that they can accept and like and figure out what other districts are doing and how they're doing it and want to be a part of it or not. I know I went through that kind of fast, but is there any questions?
Do you know what percentage of our students ride the bus?
It's actually fairly low. We're looking at probably 25 to 30% of our students riding the bus. And to be fair, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that changes. You know, when the kids are going to football, they're not riding the bus because they have to be there early or late. But as soon as football season's over, now we have a mass of students that are riding before or after, or we have some that only ride in the morning and some that only ride in the afternoon. So it's not crazy over the top for a district. I mean, percentage-wise, I've been in worse, but it's going to fluctuate.
The reason I'd like to try to get some feedback from the parents, their kids that don't ride the bus, on changing those starting times of schools, because I thought it was a little odd that the older kids start early, because I know a lot of older kids take younger kids to school.
Yes, sir. One of the reasons that we're having that conversation is because for your extracurricular, and we have a lot of students who are involved in extracurricular activities, when you start earlier, it actually allows them to miss less class. So when volleyball leaves at 2 o'clock, they may only miss part of one of their last classes as opposed to missing part of 2 of their last classes. So that's one of the advantages. There is research that says that doesn't match up with a teenager's circadian rhythm. They like to start later, but that also creates more problems, especially if those kids are really involved.
And asking those that don't ride the bus is obviously a great idea. From the bus transportation side, which is truly what I'm speaking to.
Sure.
You know, there are different reasons why things work better or worse. And one of the things that I've come across is, especially right now in this time of year, it's so dark. It's dark very early. You know, it stays dark later. And the biggest problem that I had a lot of times was their second and third graders waiting out in the dark for a bus as opposed to a sophomore or junior, you know, and they're just little variables. Now, and I apologize, I updated it, I guess I didn't get it in time, so it's really my fault. But there are 3-tier options that aren't.
Sure, I would just like to see what we could do to get feedback from, I guess, parents as a whole on changing the starting times of school.
We can absolutely do that. And we just need to, we really wanted to bring this to y'all early in our discussions. We've had just 1 or 2 discussions with our principals, and so we're just early in that stage because we didn't want to get too far down the road before we involved y'all.
Yep. Fair enough. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item is our consent agenda. We have a fairly lengthy consent agenda. We have items A through P. I can entertain all those in one motion, or if you would like to remove 1, 2, or multiple for discussion, however you desire.
Mr. President, I'd like to remove item G as in George, My comments were noted in closed session, so nothing additional is needed at this time.
So you don't want to remove it? Oh, you do want to separate? Okay, all right. So item G. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F, H through P.
So,
Motion by Mr. Starnader, second by Mr. Rogers. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, action item G.
and again, my comments were noted in closed session, so I'm not going to add anything further at this time.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item G.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Timmerman. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Okay, moving to action items. Our first action item A, consideration with possible approval of the installation and operation of a warning siren at Clift Elementary. Mr. Alvenshine.
Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Hollingsworth, Board. Thomas Griffith has been with us at this meeting for a long time. He's there in the back. The city of Waxahachie and under Thomas Griffith's leadership, the Emergency Management Office has done an analysis throughout the city to just determine where we could use additional weather sirens, and has identified an area in the neighborhood in and around Clift Elementary on Park Schoolhouse Road. It is similar to other locations within the city. There are plenty of sirens that aren't on district property, but specifically our school sites have been used for weather sirens at Waxahachie High School, at Findlay Junior High School, at Marvin Biomedical Academy, and at Shackelford Elementary School. The location of the siren here would benefit us, the school. It would benefit the residents around the school, many of whom have kids in our school. So administration, we urge approval of the location weather siren at Clift Elementary. Specifically, it'd be in that northwest corner of the campus. They're near the intersection of Park Schoolhouse Road and Carter Court, and they've been talking to Andy Reeves. They'll work with us on the location, but the city would install it, the city would maintain it for the life of the siren. It would not use electricity. It will have battery power and solar power backup, so wouldn't require any tie-in. They'll do, like I said, the installation, and so we're thankful for our partnership with the city, thankful for Mr. Griffith sitting in here for 3+ hours to hear this action. So on behalf of administration, we urge approval.
Any questions from Mr. Alvenshine? Okay, entertain a motion to approve action item A as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rogers. Second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ms. Criggin, step out. Okay, motion carries 6-0. Okay.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, moving on to action item B, consideration for possible action to cast votes in the election for Ellis County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an action that comes to you each year to approve or to cast votes for a director of the Appraisal District Board of Directors. You have 10 candidates to choose from. Those candidates are on the list provided to you in the board book. It takes 834 votes to elect a member to the board. You have 910 votes to cast. So essentially the district has the capacity to use all of its votes and guarantee the election of one of the board members. If you decided to split your votes, you could put 834 votes to one candidate, and you'd have a balance of 86 votes for another candidate. In the most recent opportunity you had, you cast votes for Rick Keeler, and he is one of the candidates available for you to again to cast votes for. So at this time, it is your action to cast votes in this election.
Board, as you know, we have Mr. Rick Keeler currently as our representative. He has expressed interest in continuing to serve. Also, which we do have, as Mr. Alvin said, we have 834 votes. If we wanted to keep Mr. Keeler, that would leave us a leftover of 76 votes that we could send to another candidate of our choice. I believe our administration had a conversation with our city, which our city does not have enough votes to guarantee one person, but they did give us a name that they were putting their votes behind, and kindly asked us if we would consider applying our extra 76 votes to Rusty Ballard.
Yes, sir.
So are there any questions or comments about that?
Mr. President, I move that we allocate and cast 834 votes for Mr. Rick Keeler and 76 votes for Mr. Rusty Ballard for the election to the Ellis Central Appraisal Board of Directors.
A motion by Mr. Rogers, second by Mr. Schofield. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Action item C, consideration with possible action to approve a resolution to designate 2 school buses as surplus property and donate them to the city of Waxahachie for use by Waxahachie Fire Department for training purposes. Mr. Calden?
Thank you, Mr. President. Recently, Board, we were approached by the fire department and asked if we had any surplus equipment because they would like for us to donate that equipment to them for training purposes. And so we have identified 2 buses with blown engines that it does not make a whole lot of sense for us to go in and do those repairs. So we'd like for you to declare them surplus tonight so that we can donate them to the fire department for training purposes.
Questions or comment? Mr. Collins? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution to designate 2 school buses as surplus property and donate them to the city of Waxahachie.
We'll move.
Motion by Mr. Rogers,
Second.
second by Mr. McCutcheon. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. All right, action item D. Consideration with possible action to approve the guaranteed maximum price for the construction of Hancock renovations and expansion from BTC in the amount of $24,994,328. Mr. Calden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to give you a little bit of GMP facts about this project. So we had 180 bidders who responded to solicitations. 3 of those were local. It's an 80,000 square foot renovation and addition. So 33,000 square feet are going to be added onto the building and almost 47,000 renovated within the building. Total price from the bids that we received was $311.86 a square foot. And the total proposed guaranteed maximum price is $25,149,681. This amount is below the GMP or the construction estimate that we had within our project. That was $25,600,000. So it is on budget. We are asking for your approval tonight.
Ryan, we had updated on that previous slide that latest number this morning, and so I just want to make sure that that's the number that goes in the record if that's where we are.
So the amount that will go into the minutes would be $25,149,681.
All right, just want to make sure.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the guaranteed maximum price for the construction of Hancock renovations and expansion from BTC in the amount of $25,149,681. Motion by Mr. Starnader. Second by Mrs. Timmerman. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Sir. And looks like our last action item. be consideration with possible action to award construction manager at risk contracts for the remaining 2023 bond projects, including Finley Junior High, campus expansion, construction of elementary number 11, and comprehensive high school number 2.
Nothing like being the guy that's stopping you from going home after a 3.5-hour meeting. Board, we recently had a 2-part RFP for a construction manager at risk to develop a contracting pool for the remainder of the projects for the 2023 bond. We had 3 trustees sit in on this committee. We had Mr. Schoolfield, we had Mr. Rogers, and we had Ms. Timmerman, Ms. Starnader, all sitting in on these interviews. And we also had 2 members from district staff. We had myself and Mr. Mott, and we also had Bob Myers with AGCM. We had really good engagement and feedback from all the trustees as we went through, but I was a little bit surprised. The recommendation from our trustees at that point was to actually split them into 2 and say, for Project A, we know who our recommendation would be, and for Proposition B projects, we know who our recommendation would be. So I give to you the rankings as it was determined by staff review and by board input from the interviews. And so the rankings for Proposition A projects was Buford Thompson Construction first, Pogue Construction, Core Construction, Chrisman, and Berry and Clay. And then on Proposition B projects, the rankings were Pogue Construction. Remind you, Proposition B projects is a little bit of a misnomer. It's only the comprehensive high school number 2. But the rankings were Pogue Construction, Core Construction, Chrisman, Buford Thompson Construction, and Berry and Clay in those orders. So at this time, the board can make a recommendation to proceed any which way it would like.
You need 2 motions or 1?
It'd be cleaner in 2,
Okay.
if that's the will of the board.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I need a motion to award the construction manager at risk for contract for Proposition A. Good enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I would like to make a motion for Proposition A, construction manager at risk, awarding that to Buford Thompson Construction.
I have a motion by Mr. Starnader. Have a second? Second by Mr. Schoolfield. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Now I need a motion for possible consideration, possible action to award construction manager at risk contract for the 2023 bond project Proposition B.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got to mention construction manager at risk, Project B.
I move on Proposition B for Pogue Construction to be the construction manager at risk.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Starnader. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
board.
All right, our last item will be our comment from our individual board members. In any particular order, however you want to proceed.
I'll start. Tonight, we had the members of the naming committee here. We also had Education Foundation members. And I was going to thank tonight all these people that are so involved in all these committees, and I wrote some down. The SHAC Committee, the Crisis Management, the Bond Oversight Committee, the Naming Committee, DEIC. We have so many committees in our district that we have such wonderful community support and district support, and I just wanted to recognize and thank them.
Anyone else?
Each month, I try to choose a different group to celebrate or honor, and today I wanted to celebrate our paraprofessionals because they are they're the teachers' assistants. They're doing a wonderful job of helping the teachers, and then also standing in when there's. They may be a substitute. They may have to substitute. They have to do everything. And then also, of course, our secretarial and attendance clerk and all of those, that level of employee. I don't think they get enough recognition, and I just wanted to thank them.
I'll say thanks to Mr. Jacobs. We get emails pretty often. Yours are always very well thought out, very kind, and I can tell you do your homework, and it kind of displays your character through your son today. I thought he did a great job speaking, and so we appreciate you staying involved.
As a follow-up to that, I want to thank all of our people that spoke in open forum. And, you know, even though we can't engage or comment or respond, we do hear you. We do care about your topics. So I just wanted to let you know.
I'll continue that discussion. I mean, a lot of people feel like that, you know, there's a narrative out there that you shouldn't be allowed to speak at a board meeting, and I think it's certainly, I mean, we need to be kept in check and questions asked and all that kind of stuff. So I think I appreciate people that are passionate and come visit with us.
I never thought I'd live here long enough to see two high schools, much less, well, we have two already, two comprehensive high schools, much less have to vote on one, or an elementary school number 11. As a member of the local agrarian community, I can't say I like it because it is taking away my livelihood. But at the same time, the world changes. I've sat through the construction meetings, as I've done a lot in my life in places other than just here. It's an exciting time, so it's scary too. It's a lot of money, and it has to be thought out and has to be done right, and we'll be watching. So, but let's. I guess we got to have somewhere to put everybody, and we want every kid to have a seat. And to pony off on also the other speakers, as far as somebody coming to the board meeting to speak, come say your piece, say your mind. I listen to everybody. I don't necessarily agree with everybody, but I listen to them and try to take notes. And sometimes I'm wrong and I have to change my mind on something. So it's good to see something from a different view.
All right, I'm going to close by recognizing a group that probably doesn't get recognized much, and that's my fellow 6 colleagues that are sitting to my right and my left. We had a 3.5-hour meeting tonight. Could have been much longer if you guys weren't prepared and engaged. So I don't want you to think that goes unnoticed. I specifically want to thank Mr. Schofield, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Starnader for the 2.5, 3 hours you spent interviewing contractors. When I asked you guys to serve on that committee, no one hesitated. I didn't realize it was going to be that long, but I want to tell you I appreciate that. That does not go unnoticed. Mr. Rogers, Mr. Timmerman, the time you've spent on the naming committee, you will continue to spend on the naming committee. I just wanted to recognize that. And the other thing that I'm very proud of, that no one in the community knew what we were naming those schools until tonight. I have no idea how we were able to keep the lid on that, but the Ray family was truly surprised. And with that, I just want to say thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schofield, second by Mr. Rogers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.